work. Purport. There are many pseudo-meditators who misrepresent themselves as being great professional men of high parentage and who falsely pose that they have sacrificed everything for the sake of advancement. Is the you. So this analysis, Sankhya literally means to count or analyze, is also important to a certain degree to understand the raw materials that we have to work with by which we can connect to Krishna. But the point is that in Krishna consciousness, once you come to the point of acting in devotion and understanding that you should try to do the things that we do in Krishna consciousness to connect to Krishna, everything else is taken care of automatically. It's not that you have to compartmentalize your sadhana. It says, okay, now I'm just going to contemplate. If you're working in karma yoga, in that you're intending the work that you're doing is intended to be an offering to Krishna, that's our karma yoga. But at the same time, your intelligence is involved, because why am I doing it? Who am I doing it for? And by hearing, especially, you're remembering Krishna. But you can remember the Bhagavad Gita, you can remember the deities, you can remember all the holy name, you see? So all of your facilities are engaged. There's a place for everything. In other words, it's like, we have bodies, and it's not like just the head is important, and not just everything is important. So similarly, all of these aspects of yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and of course, bhakti yoga encompasses the essence of all of them. And you get the benefits of all. Just like I like to read, we're going to eventually get to the 6th chapter, and the 6th chapter is all about dhyana yoga or Ashtanga yoga. And there's various technical aspects to that. But then when Krishna gets to describe the benefits of it, one who is situated in samadhi and full meditation on Krishna, then he experiences transcendental happiness through transcendental senses. He's never shaken from the truth. And having attained that, he thinks there's no greater thing to attain. This is blissful life, even through dhyana yoga. But practically speaking, the dhyana for this age, the same result is gotten through regular chanting of the holy name and gradually connecting every one of our thoughts and activities and things to Krishna. So it's practical in this age, whereas dhyana yoga really isn't, because go to a secluded place and sit like this and do the pranayama, and then, no, you can't be in a yoga studio doing it. You have to be off in the Himalayas somewhere. It's not going to happen. So Krishna's saying here, because Arjuna, you see in the previous text, I think I went through the slight, the editing. My intelligence is revealed by your apparently equivocal instructions. Did I go through that? Because the word eva is there. See that? Which really doesn't mean certainly in this case. It means apparently, or as if. And why do we know that? Because right in the purport, he says, although Krishna had no intention of confusing Arjuna of any juggling of words, because what it says now, my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Why are you giving me equivocal instructions? But Arjuna didn't say that. He says, my intelligence is bewildered by your eva equivocal instructions, by your apparently equivocal instructions. And that's what Prabhupada says in the purport. Had no intention of confusing by Arjuna could not follow the process of Krishna consciousness. Oh, no, previous sentence. A more organized outline of the path would be necessary for action understanding. Arjuna therefore wanted to clear up these apparently confusing matters so that any common man could accept them without misinterpretation. So they may be equivocal, seem equivocal to certain readers, because on one hand he's recommending the buddhi, is the main thing, and then the action, that seems to be. So, because Arjuna was thinking, well, that this seems to agree with what I want to do, because I want to engage my intelligence, I want to go and become a beggar and a yogi, rather than this seemingly self-defeating battle where I'm going to be killing my friends and my relatives, because he still hasn't got it, that the essence is he's doing it for Krishna's pleasure, not for his own. That's the idea. Okay. Any discussion on this? Okay. Going on. Text 4. Nakarmanam Naishkamyam Purushoshnute Natasanyasanareva Siddhim Samadhigachati. Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Purport. The renounced order of life can be accepted when one has been purified by the discharge of the prescribed form of duties which are laid down just to purify the hearts of materialistic men. Without purification, one cannot attain success by abruptly adopting the fourth order of life, sannyas. According to the empirical philosophers, simply by adopting sannyas or retiring from fruitive activities, one at once becomes as good as Narayan. But Lord Krishna does not approve of this principle. Without purification of heart, sannyas is simply a disturbance to the social order. On the other hand, if someone takes to the transcendental service of the Lord, even without discharging his prescribed duties, whatever he may be able to advance in the cause is accepted by the Lord, buddhi yoga. Svalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bayat. Even the slight performance of such a principle enables one to overcome great difficulties. So, you may recognize that line. That's from the verse I quote practically every other class. How does it start? In this activity, there's no loss or diminution. Karma, neha bikramanasosti. Neha bikramanasosti pratyavayo nibhita. Thank you. Svabham apasya dharmasya trayatamitam. In this activity, Krishna consciousness, there's no loss or diminution. Whatever you're able to do in this lifetime is your eternal benefit. And even a little advancement protects you from the greatest danger, the most fearful type of danger. Hopefully we can get that one fixed. Probably, whenever he quoted that verse, which is a lot, he would always talk about, the great danger of losing the human form of life. Anyway, we won't get into that again. So this word, naishkarmya, this word comes up in the Bhagavatam. Naishkarmya vapyachutta varjitam nashobhati jnanamalang niranjanam. In the 5th chapter of the 1st canto, Vedavyas is encouraging, excuse me, and Narada Muni is encouraging Vedavyas to write the Srimad Bhagavatam. And one of the verses he says is Naishkarmya. What is Naishkarmya? Naishkarmya is activity that produces no reaction. And this is what we want. But that's a negative side. In other words, well, what does it produce? Activity that's for Krishna produces no reaction. Or it produces no bad reaction, There's no karmic reaction for that. There is rather a purification of the heart, which brings you closer to the goal, which is pure love for Krishna. When all your activities are in that mood, and that all your activities are that, then there's certainly no reaction to it. You see, good or bad. We don't want good reaction. Good reaction, quote, good reaction means you have to come back in order to get the wonderful, result. Oh, I did so much good karma. I'll go to heaven. No, because you're still in the material world, and you have to fall down again. Dharma Setu Prabhu, he told me this. I never knew this. In the 9th chapter, I think it is, Krishna, he has this conclusive opinion of the idea of going to the heavenly planets. Trividya mam somapaputapapa. Some worship me indirectly, according to the 3 Vedas, the different Vedas that are for karma kanda. You've heard that phrase, that describe different sacrifices to different devas in order to go to different higher planets. So there's a whole bunch of the Vedas that do that. So he says, Trividya mam somapaputapapa. Some worship me indirectly by this means, and they drink the soma juice, somapa, puttapapa, and this way they become purified to a degree. Trivindyama somapat yagya istvar swargatim pratayanti. Haribol. Christian. Was it Christian or just Chris? Okay. Yeah, you can sit here, or you can sit on a chair, or it might be most comfortable on that bench for you. Just grab a book. All right, you can sit down and be my guest. Chris was here for the morning class. He's an old timer, right? See, that's the problem. The most comfortable position is pointing your legs at me, but you're not supposed to do that. So, yeah, you can sit down. There you go. You okay? Huh? Oh, you remember. That's right. Oh, you were online. Okay, so let's go. So he says, try, this is in the 9th chapter, try vidyamam somapapata patva yagya isvar swargatim pratiyante. Te punyamasada sudendra lokam ashnani divyan dividevi bhoga. So, following these karma kanda section of the Vedas, some worship me indirectly, aiming to go to the heavenly planets. Yagya Ishva, Svargatim. They want to, their goal is Svar. Svar is heaven, is heaven in general. Pradya. Te punyam asa sadya surendra lokam. And those who succeed, they become very pious and they go to Indra Loka, say. And then he describes the next verse. Tetam bhukva svargalokam vishalam, chine punye martya lokam vishanti. Evam sahi dhamma manupapanna gatakatam kama kama labante. So in those two verses, he should destroy our desire to go to heaven, because it doesn't really help. He says, okay, for a while they may enjoy like anything up there. You know, you can imagine having a body that doesn't really ever get sick. You know, I mean, you don't stay permanently, but when you leave, you leave. You know, it's finished. Vishalam. Vishala means very large. There was once a devotee Prabhupada gave the name Vishal too. He's pretty substantial. Famous devotee. Chine punye, when your pious credits are used up, chine punye martya lokam vishanti. You come down again to this 9th earth planet? No, he doesn't call it that. It's the martya loka. This is the world of death. You see? Isn't Sanskrit a far language? Martya, mortuary, mortal. See the relation between the English word and the Sanskrit? So, but then, okay, well, that sounds pretty bad. You have to fall down again and start all over again. But what about, this is where Dharma told me this, I was just amazed. Said, when you leave, you know, you fall out of heaven because your time is up, like your punya is finished, right? On the way down, I'm going to have to confirm this, but this is what he told me. He's seen it. Your body, you're attacked by these rakshasas and man-eaters, and you're devoured. Your body is, in other words, that's the result of going to heaven. This is on the way down. But you can't die because your soul is. But you come down in the rain, and then you fall into a field of grain, and you get into the grain. The grain is eaten by eventually a man, and it's, you know, this is how you get back into a womb. Does it sound like fun? If you knew that was going to happen, would you do it? It's a way of convincing us it's silly. And Krishna said, and then the final verdict that Krishna has, Evam tahi dhammam anu katagatam kama kama. You're going and you're coming. You're not making any progress toward back to Godhead. You're just wasting a whole bunch of time. All those years up in these heavenly planets. You're not going, you know, it doesn't. So therefore we don't want to do it. Okay. So a Naishkarmya does not result. Naishkarmya is activity that has no material result. The only activity that actually that you can be assured is Krishna conscious activity. Whatever you do that's sincerely done just for Krishna with no material motivation doesn't produce any karmic reaction. That's called Naishkarmya. You see. So, but that's not achieved just by not doing anything. Non-performance of prescribed duties doesn't give you Naishkarmya. And simply giving up all activity, or, you know, sannyas alone doesn't produce a siddhi, one doesn't attain that. There has to be that central motive of bhakti. Bhakti has to be there. Okay, going on to text 5. Nahi kaschit chanamapi jatu tishtat karma krit. Oh wait, nahi kaschit chanamapi jatu tishtat karma krit kayate yavasha karma Sarvak Prakati Jayagunai. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Purport: it is not a question of embodied life, but it is the nature of the soul to be always active. Without the presence of the spirit soul, the material body cannot move. The body is only a dead vehicle to be worked by the spirit soul, which is always active and cannot stop even for a moment. As such, the spirit soul has to be engaged in the good work of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it will be engaged in occupations dictated by the illusory energy. Excuse me. In contact with material energy, the spirit soul acquires material modes. And to purify the soul from such affinities, it is necessary to engage in the prescribed duties enjoined in the Shastras. But if the soul is engaged in his natural function of Krishna consciousness, whatever he is able to do is good for him. The Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17 affirms this. I'll chant it myself. Chakva swadharmam chadanam bhajang hare bhajan apokvo tapate tato yadi yatra kva bhadrama buddha mushikim kovarta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. If someone takes to Krishna consciousness, even though he may not follow the prescribed duties in the Shastras or execute the devotional service properly, and even though he may fall down from the standard, there is no loss or evil for him. This is an expansion on that verse, the Karma Namanayadamba. No, not Nehavi Karmanashas. But if he carries out all the injunctions for purification in the Shastras, what does it avail him if he is not Krishna conscious? Close quote. So the purificatory process is necessary for reaching this point of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, sannyas, or any purificatory process, is to help reach the ultimate goal of becoming Krishna conscious, without which everything is considered a failure. So this is interesting because unless you have this commentary that Prabhupada is giving, it's hard to come to this conclusion just by reading these three verses. But Prabhupada is, he's giving it with his deep knowledge and his...
Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshut Unmilitam Jina Tasmai Shri Guravi Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayati Girim Yat Kripatam Ahang Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Nama Ong Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Charu Swaminiti Namini Nama Ong Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pastata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita, Shri Gadadhar, Shivasari, Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna and good morning. So, I don't know how many of you one second. Okay, so I don't know how many of you actually looked up what I put up on the chat there. I just want to see by show of hands who actually got the opportunity to look up pneumopathology. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. So pneumopathology is made up of two words. Pneuma, which is like a life force or spirit, breath, and a subtle energy. Oh, the soul. This is coming from the Greeks. And pathology comes from two words. The study of disease. Ology means to study. So pneumopathology means the disease of the spirit. And in psychology, they've studied. Psychology studies quite different things. And one of those things that they've studied is that they've made a correlation between somebody's behavior in private and somebody's behavior in public. So you've heard me say this before, that the real measure of a man or a woman is when you're alone and nobody's watching, what do you do with your time? Because many times, not always, but many times, when we go into the public, it's not us, but it's a representation of us. Right? We hardly ever present ourselves in public in an honest way. We build this facade. So anyway, in psychology, they can almost always tell, for instance, by somebody being constantly late to how they do in life, whether they get success, fame, whatever. And the results are shocking. Well, not so shocking. That people that are late and always giving excuses tend not to make it very far in life. They tend to work for other people, for instance. They tend to have poor decision-making skills. So the point here is that don't fool yourself into thinking because you missed one class, the rest of your life is fine. So when you miss class or when you come late here, it's an indication of what's happening in your life, how you treat time, how you treat others, how you treat even your family, just by looking at that. And this one point leads to very catastrophic results. And what are those results? That Africa is a failed continent. I mentioned this yesterday. Africa is a failed continent. In fact, let me spread it even further. That, repeat again what I said yesterday, that that you look at if you spread just across the diaspora, there is no country on the continent that is successful. Jamaica, not successful. Lots of corruption, lots of crime. Haiti, so you see, Krishna speaks about lawlessness, right? If you remember, you'll go back where Krishna is speaking about lawlessness. Haiti is the embodiment of what happens when there is no accountability, which is tying into what we are doing. Because if you come on time, it means you are responsible and you are accountable. So we look at Haiti, you see it's a failed state. When governments, when leaders have no sense of responsibility, have no sense of time, no sense of urgency. The result is what you see in Haiti, where government has collapsed. Government has collapsed in Haiti. Haiti is run by gangsters. You can look it up, go on the news. It's run by gangsters. And gangsters, they are not like the mafia. At least the mafia, even though they are criminals, they have a code. They have some moral code. For instance, the mafia, they don't kidnap and kill children and women, right? They only kill people that are in the business. These gangsters don't have any code. They kill everybody, women, children, pregnant, whatever, old people. So Haiti is an example of what happens when there's no responsibility, no sense of time, no sense of urgency, like some of you are doing. It's a failed state. And you look at across the continent, the most of our countries, most of the African countries are failed. Lawlessness is there. Every single country. And some of you may say, well, South Africa, no, it's a failed state. South Africa is a failed state. I lived there. I know it's a failed state. All because the black man doesn't want to take responsibility, never comes on time, has no sense of respect for others, has no sense of respect for time, has no sense of respect for community, has no sense of respect for God. This is the leadership that is supposed to take ISKCON to the next generation, to the next level. How are we going to succeed? How are we going to take ISKCON West Africa, ISKCON Southern Africa, ISKCON East Africa to the future if the future is failing miserably? I watched Raghupati attend class with his camera on and he was eating. This is the collapse of culture. This is where it begins. So as ISKCON in this continent, we are in a very dangerous position if we don't pull our socks up. ISKCON will collapse. I don't know what's going to happen, for instance, let's say in West Africa, and it's going to happen. I don't wish it happens now, but it's going to happen. It's because all of us will die. What is going to happen in West Africa if Bhakti Damodar Maharaj leaves his body? What is going to happen in West Africa if Shiva's Prabhu leaves his body? Some of you don't understand the responsibilities that these devotees hold. It's a tough job. It's a tough service. We have somebody who's sleeping 2 hours a day, pouring all his energy into his disciples, all his energy into preaching. And yet, the result, they're still late. No apology, no sense of responsibility. Yesterday, somebody was here, spent 10 minutes listening to his conversation. What does the future look like for you? We are in a very, very dangerous position. Prabhupada, his whole mood is written there. The whole goal of the Shastric study is to create, and I'm paraphrasing it from memory, to create a Krishna conscious leadership that is able to practice and internalize the teachings of the Shastra, the teachings of our acharyas in their own lives and in the lives of others. So if your own life is a mess, lack of accountability, no time, how can you preach to somebody else? You can't preach to somebody else. It's just like I told this story before in one of the temples. I asked the temple president, hey, I want to go house to house and introduce myself and preach here. And he said, no, please don't do that, Prabhu. The people here know us. They've seen us fighting on the streets. They've seen us cursing each other. How are you going to preach if you behave so poorly? I've been to Harinams where devotees get into fight in the public space. Dhoti, tilak, and they start fighting. Is this the leadership that we want? I can tell you, if I was somebody who's a truth seeker and I was attracted to the holy name, I came closer to a Harinam and I saw the devotees fighting, I would just turn and walk away. They're just like everybody else. Anyway, I said my piece. I said my piece. 30 years later, we're still looking to the West to come and help us with this project, that project. We're looking up to them. We're looking up to the Indian people to sponsor this project, sponsor that project. Where are the Africans? And God bless our Indian congregation. If it wasn't for them, there would not be any Krishna conscious. So, I fall at their feet and glorify them in that way. All right. So, did anybody listen to the lecture that Dravida Prabhu was giving? Was the audio audible? Purushottam Prabhu, was the audio audible?
Yes, Prabhu, but I'm in a poor connection area, so it was not clear. It was breaking.
Okay, but you heard it.
Yeah, I heard some.
Okay. All right. So somebody can summarize what we discussed yesterday. Or you can summarize what you remember and the others can come in.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Raghupati, go ahead.
Yes, what I can remember is that Krishna
Speak louder.
What I can remember is that Krishna was showing his universal form to Arjuna, and Arjuna was even praising him, but at the same time he was also fearful of the form and was also asking Krishna questions, and Krishna was answering him all
Like what
about his
questions?
opulences.
Like what?
He was asking him the question that is it like he has okay, there was no questions, but he was just glorifying him. Now I remember. He was just glorifying him about his form. And then Krishna was also saying some things like Arjuna was saying some things like He has no beginning, has no end, or has no middle.
Very good. Very good. Anything else? Or somebody can come in. Do you want to continue? Okay, Balabhadra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, yesterday we analyzed the etiquette of the devotee and the character they should emulate. That one should not accept, one cannot become a devotee to exploit others or to hide in the role of a devotee to be demanding money from the newcomer, and the manner and the approach to each other. And also, because of the lecture, also when Arjuna was when Krishna was presented the universal form to Arjuna, and the emotion the Arjuna undergo when he saw the universal form, and he started to analyze it one by one. The mention about astonishment and then fear and overwhelming and first prayer and surrender and bitterness. You clear everything one by one. And, that's what I can hear you say.
Aye.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Balabhadra Prabhu. Anybody else? Purushottam Yatra Prabhu. So you can put your hand down after you've finished speaking. Purushottam Yatra Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. So after Arjuna was convinced of Krishna situated in everything in the universe, he requested Krishna to show him his universal form as the Virat Rupa. And Krishna also described his universal form and bestowed Arjuna the eye to see that form. That is what I can remember yesterday also.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. All right. So, what is it? No, we're in chapter 11, not 12. So this is where we are. Okay. So somebody can read. Where did we finish? 36 to 46, right? That's where we ended off. 36.
Prabhu, we didn't read 33.
We didn't read 33? Okay, let me just
Yes,
go to the verse 33. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. You're right. We didn't read 33, 34, 35. Yeah. Okay. So can somebody read those three verses? What is it? 34, 35. Oh, sorry, 33, 34, 35. Hare Krishna, go ahead.
Therefore, get up, prepare to fight and win glory.
Where are you now? Where are you? Look, you sound so far away.
I'm at 33.
Yes, go ahead. Come, maybe speak closer to the mic.
Okay. Therefore, get up, prepare to fight and win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement. And you, oh Savia Sati, can be but an instrument in the fight. 34. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore, kill them and do not be disturbed. Simply fight, and you will vanquish your enemies in battle. Text 35. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, "O king, after hearing these words from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the trembling Arjuna offered obeisances with folded hands again and again. He fearfully spoke to Lord Krishna in a flattering voice as follows." Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Raghupati, the future GBC, the future temple president of ISKCON Accra. Okay, so there's a very interesting thing there. You see the I'm struggling with light here. You see the Krishna calls Arjuna Sabyasachi. Right? Sabyasachi means an expert fighter. He can use both his left hand and his right hand. Srila Prabhupada says it in the purport. Sabyasachi refers to one who can shoot arrows very expertly in the field. Thus, Arjuna is addressed as an expert warrior capable of delivering arrows to kill his enemies. Just become an instrument. Nimitta matram. This word is also very significant. The whole world is moving according to the plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Foolish persons who do not have sufficient knowledge think that nature is moving without a plan, and all manifestations are but accidental formations. There are many so-called scientists who suggest that perhaps it was like this or maybe like that. But there is no question of perhaps and maybe. There is a specific plan being carried out in this material world. What is this plan? This cosmic manifestation is a chance for the conditioned soul to go back to Godhead, back to home. As long as they have the domineering mentality which makes them try to lord it over material nature, they are conditioned. But anyone who can understand the plan of the Supreme Lord and cultivate Krishna consciousness is most intelligent. The creation and destruction of the cosmos, of the cosmic manifestation, are under the superior guidance of God. Thus, the battle of Kurukshetra was fought according to the plan of God. Arjuna was refusing to fight, but he was told that he should fight in accordance with the desire of the Supreme Lord. Then he would be happy. If one is in full Krishna consciousness and his life is devoted to the Lord, his transcendental service, he is perfect. So Prabhupada makes various arguments on this purport here. So one of the things that you see here is that, and Prabhupada repeatedly does, is that he bashes the scientists. And as I mentioned before, that modern scientists are like Kali Yuga Brahmanas. Whereas in the past, people used to consult Brahmanas when it came to yagyas and all the other stuff that goes with it. They were the gatekeepers to knowledge and to processes. In this age, nothing has changed because Krishna himself says in the 2nd chapter that the Varnashram system that he has created can't be changed. It's created by God. It can't be changed by anybody. It may take different forms, but it doesn't change because once God's will, as Prabhupada says in the well, God's will always comes to pass. So the argument of the Mayavadis, we've discussed this, and the scientists, these Kali Yuga Brahmanas, is that we always consult them. And I also see with devotees, like a devotee would, for instance, give a class on Srimad Bhagavatam, right? And then they would check, what does psychology say? What does this say? And yet we know that Krishna consciousness is not dependent on any of these. Prabhupada said the people, NASA didn't go to the moon. Some devotees, most devotees believed him and accepted it. Some devotees refused to accept it. Why? Because according to science, it's not possible, at least at the time. I mean, it's possible, rather. Prabhupada said it was impossible. They said it was possible. Some of them left the movement because of that landing in the moon thing. So materialists are like the Kali Yuga Brahmanas. We consult them in everything, right? Even sometimes to confirm if what the Bhakti Sastri is saying is true. And so they tell us that there was a Big Bang theory. You know, the whole Big Bang theory is, there is a philosophy, what is it called now? I'm trying to remember. Karya? It's Satkarya Vada, yes. So this is the philosophy of origin. You know, the word Karya comes from, we say, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarva, Karana, Karana. So Karya is effect, cause and effect. So Satkarya Vada is the philosophy of cause and effect, right? And the Mayavadis say, well, as scientists in this regard, let's stick to what Prabhupada is, because he's addressing the modern day scholars, right? The modern day scholars, with their Big Bang theory, argue that there was nothing. There was nothing. The world just came into being by a Big Bang. So there's no cause. This is what the Mayavadis are saying. There is no cause. The effects are not in the cause. Because if the effect were in the cause, God would be in the material world. He would pervade the material world. So the Big Bang theory said that there is no effect. It's just chance. Because what's the alternative? The world was created by God, and they don't want God in the center, so they kill him by saying everything happened by chance. There was this explosion, and from this explosion, this primordial soup was generated, and from this primordial soup, the first single cell living being came, and then from there it split, and it became a fish, then a crocodile, and then voila, human beings. See, this is the easiest way you kill God, isn't it? It's a nice way. It's a very convenient way of getting rid of God. So this is what Prabhupada is speaking about here in the purport, this philosophy that there's no cause. So you should be very careful when we make reference to modern day science, that we understand that everything has a philosophy. Everything has a philosophy and a psychology. Again, I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this because this is important. Everything has a philosophy and a psychology. Many devotees, we watch, many devotees, they'll go, let's say they'll watch, they won't watch movies because movies are violent. There's a lot of, nudity and sexual stuff. So they say, I'll watch National Geographic because it's just animals and birds, it's very peaceful. Which is nice. It's not a bad thing. But do you know that National Geographic has a philosophy. As I said, every living being, every institution, every country, they have a philosophy which pervades what they do. And what is National Geographic philosophy? There's no God. All of this beauty that you see came by chance. So we are celebrating it. You listen to these documentaries that they do. They never, ever pay homage to God. When something is amazing, they'll say, wow, science is amazing. So we have to be careful when we reference. Prabhupada says there are many so-called scientists, and Prabhupada said so-called scientists because a real scientist understands that the effects are there. The effects are there. So God, who is the cause, manifests himself in the world, or the effect. So the God is still here. So that's really the core idea here. And so therefore one cannot be a real scientist if they don't accept or they try to kill God. So the Prabhupada is calling them so-called scientists because they're not really. There are many so-called scientists who suggest that perhaps it was like this or maybe it was like that. But there is no question of perhaps and maybe, what Prabhupada calls the post-dated check. Raghupati wouldn't know anything about checks, but yeah. So that's the idea here. We have to be very careful who we ask for advice, even something that seems very innocent as a philosophy. And in some devotees are very critical, and I believe rightly so, are very critical of because in some places they'll invite a speaker to come and sit on the Vyasa sign and speak who's not a Gaudiya Vaishnava, which is wonderful for communication purposes. But the communication, as I mentioned yesterday, communication is not just verbal. There's also subtle communication. So somebody may be saying something, and but they're conveying a different message. And this is how people get bewildered. Here's an example I'll end with. There's if you all remember, there's a documentary that was made by ITV, ISKCON TV, many years ago. And I think it was called Prabhupada Memories. Okay. I lost my train of thought anyway. Anybody remember what I was saying? I got distracted here.
So you were talking about the ISKCON TV.
ISKCON? ITV.
Yeah, the ISKCON TV about documentary, Prabhupada memory.
Yeah, but there's something I wanted to say that I forgot. Yeah, ITV did make a documentary about remembrance of Prabhupada, where disciples. Oh yes, now I remember. So one of the disciples, he said he was narrating how he came to Krishna consciousness, and he says he was at the airport. So the devotees went to the airport. I don't know if it was LA. I don't know. I don't remember. But devotees went to pick up Prabhupada at the airport, and so people are passing by, and so he's curious. He looks. And as he looks, he's going to catch a flight. And as he's looking, he sees the devotees, and then his gaze moves to Prabhupada, who was coming towards the devotees. And Prabhupada looked directly at the eyes of this devout disciple. And this is it's a personal experience. You can refute it, whatever, but I'm not one to refute people's internals experiences, because I can only testify to what's happening to myself and not to others. So I take what devotees say seriously. So he says when Prabhupada looked at him, he saw, well, firstly he saw when he saw Prabhupada come, before even Prabhupada looked at him, he didn't really see Prabhupada, he saw this huge ball of fire, this light that was moving. and he was trying to make sense of who this personality is. This effulgent personality was blinding his eyes. And then when he could finally make out this personality, Prabhupada looked at him and he says in his own eyes, he saw light coming from Prabhupada's eyes, coming straight towards him and hit him. And he said he almost collapsed. And then what happened? He decided, I'll take a later flight. Let me see who this great personality is. And now he is one of the devotees in ISKCON. He never went back to catch his flight. He joined and became a devotee. But the point is, communication is not just verbal or physical. It can also happen on a subtle level. So when we ask for advice, especially from materialists, we should be careful. Their intentions are not pure. Or not always pure. I mean, some people are honest. And then Krishna, in text number 35, he addresses, you see, this is the beauty about Krishna. Krishna is not an impersonalist. You see what Krishna is doing. Yesterday we mentioned how this chapter is really all about emotions, because Arjuna is like, he's bombarded by so many emotions that he gets paralyzed in the end. So Krishna, just like Prabhupada would do, I don't know if you've ever seen how Prabhupada answers questions. Have you seen how Prabhupada answers questions? If somebody asks Prabhupada questions, he answers what seemingly is a different question. Prabhupada often doesn't answer your question directly or give you the answer that you're looking for. He almost always gives you a different answer that you didn't expect. Because the trick here is that sometimes as human beings, we are not sure of where we stand emotionally. We are not sure of where we stand psychologically and physically. So even when we try to ask questions, and we do sincerely, we ask questions, we don't really mean what we are asking. So the Acharya like Srila Prabhupada picks up on that and then answers what you are really asking, not the other stuff that's there. This is the beauty of Srila Prabhupada, is that he addresses exactly what you need. I mean, I'll give you an example. Giriraj Swami, he tells this story very, very frequently. When he first went to go meet Prabhupada, he was a Mayavadi, right? Well, not Mayavadi, impersonalist, because Mayavadi is really a philosophy and a way of life. So he went to go to see Prabhupada, and he challenged Prabhupada. He asked Prabhupada something, I forget the question, forgive me. But Maharaj explains that I was expecting a different answer. And you know what Prabhupada's answer was? You can go and just actually read the story proper. And you know what Prabhupada's answer was? You are a Mayavad. Prabhupada looked at him and said, you are impersonal, you are a Mayavad. And Giriraj Swami was shocked. And Prabhupada told him some details that nobody knew about Giriraj Swami. And he was shocked. And he says, I didn't know how Prabhupada knew, because I had in my bathroom or in my bedroom, I had written a little notice that says, I ahang brahmasmi, I am God. So Prabhupada addressed that instead of addressing what he was asking. This is an acharya. You and me, somebody asks you a question, we argue about semantics. And then in the end, the real question is not answered. Ego gets in the place. This is the difference between us and an acharya. So you see the same mood is here with Krishna. Krishna does not dismiss Arjuna's emotion. You're angry. Man up, be a man. Stop crying. No. He doesn't do that. Be a Vaishnava. What are you doing? Crying men don't. No, he doesn't say. Listen what he's saying. He says, where is it? Where are we? 35. He says, Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and the other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore, kill them. And what? Do not be disturbed. Yes. Do not be disturbed. Simply fight and you will vanquish your enemy in battle. This is why Krishna is God and we are not. He doesn't dismiss Arjuna's fear. Remember, Arjuna is fearful at this stage. He's bewildered. Krishna doesn't dismiss him. What does he do? Oh, my dear friend Arjuna, relax, calm down. All these warriors, I've already killed them. Because Arjuna has already acknowledged that Krishna is God. He says, I've already killed them. So all you have to do is just go in the battlefield and fight. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. If I was asked this question, I would probably have exploded. Hey, you're a warrior. What's wrong with you? Give up this petty weakness of heart, oh, chastise of the enemy. Krishna had said that in the beginning, right? This is what he said to Arjuna, but now he's changed his mood. He's saying to him, he's calming him down. This is personalism. This is one of those verses that shows, I speak about this theme of personalism over and over again. This is one of those verses, which is much, much deeper because it's holistic in the sense that it shows a father, a friend, a companion, a comrade pacifying his friend. This is the difference between you and me and Krishna. No dismissal. What is this brahmachari doing? Why are you crying, Purushottam? You're a brahmachari. No time for tears. No. You acknowledge. The same thing with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Remember when Shivananda Sen was kicked by Nityananda Prabhu. And Shivananda Sen's nephew, didn't like that because Shivananda Sen was a respectable Brahmana. And he was kicked by Nityananda, and being kicked is, it's unacceptable. So he rushed forward because they were still on pilgrimage. They were coming from Bengal, going to Jagannath Puri. So he was disturbed emotionally seeing his uncle being kicked, his respectable uncle. So he rushed to Jagannath Puri and he left everybody behind. And when he got there, the Sarup Damodar and others, the attendants of Mahaprabhu, didn't want to let him in because firstly he was disturbed. You could tell emotionally he was disturbed. And secondly, when we present ourselves in front of the Lord, traditionally at least at that time, was that you had to have a chadar on you. Or you didn't have to have a chadar, I forget. You had to have a chadar on you. You have to just confirm if you had to have one or not have one, but either one of those two. So when he got there, he didn't have a chadar. He had a chadar, and the attendants, Govindas and them, they chased him out. They were chasing him away. No, this is not the way you present yourself in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's improper. What did Mahaprabhu say? No. He didn't say, yes, go away, go wear a chadar and then come back. No, he said, no, leave the man. He's disturbed. His mind is disturbed. So address that first. And so the nephew was able to sit down with Mahaprabhu and express his complaint, even though he wasn't properly presented in front of the Lord. This is the difference between Vaishnavism and a struggling sadhaka. We accept people for who they are, but we help them move forward. Not that we reject people for what they are and try to make them into something that they're not. Krishna says we should act according to our nature, not try to mold people into something that they are not, because that always ends in disaster. Krishna himself testifies to that. Trying to be something you're not is never a good idea. And I had somebody say, I like this saying, it's not my saying, I had somebody saying, I don't want to be, as he says something to the effect that I can only be myself because everybody else is taken. I like that very much. I just wanted to acknowledge that I had it from somewhere else. So this is important as leaders of tomorrow. When you deal with people, be very careful. Do not neglect or abuse or take for granted people's emotional content. We are Vaishnavas. I made various examples yesterday of even Krishna himself feeling emotionally overwhelmed. I can give you another one. When Krishna was in the battlefield fighting with one demon, this demon was so expert in his illusions that he created a picture of Vasudeva. I mean, he created an image like a form of, because he was a mystic, these demons were like mystic yogis also. He created a form of Vasudeva. He took out his sword and he cut out the head of this form of Vasudeva. And when Krishna saw this, he dropped to his knees and he cried, "Father!" If Krishna has emotional content, why shouldn't we allow devotees to have their own emotional content? As leaders, our job is to mold and guide devotees, not try to tell them into mini versions of ourselves.
Please, can you
Guru
repeat that?
means heavy. Guru means heavy. It means also that it's guidance. So you're not always heavy. If you're always having people out, that's never going to work. So you have to be heavy, of course, but you have to balance it with acknowledging people and taking care of people like Prabhupada did. All right. Prabhu, you have a question and then we can move on to our next section.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Yes, you just say something just of recent that Krishna was in emotion and you give a reason. I don't know what you just mentioned just of recent. Say Krishna was made down. I can't hear very well.
I'm not understanding your question, Prabhu. Krishna was?
And now you say you are just giving the reason for our emotion that Krishna also have emotion, and you give a sample what happened to Krishna to be in emotion that he made down. You say you cause somebody head.
No, I didn't say that. What causes Krishna to? I said that Krishna has an emotional content. As human beings, we have the thinking capacity, right? We have the willing capacity. We also have the feeling capacity. So I'm saying that all these components is what makes a human being. So we should not just remove the emotional component and expect people just to operate on a physical, on a philosophical level and on other levels without the emotional content. It's cheating. It's not Vaishnavism. So what I was saying is that Krishna, because he's the origin, the karya, the cause, right? He is the cause of this emotional content. He himself has exhibited this emotional content. And I gave this example of this demon that created this form of Vasudeva and cut out the head of the form of Vasudeva. And when Krishna saw this, he was emotionally overwhelmed. He collapsed and dropped to his knees and called out, "Father!" because he thought his father was being killed. But it wasn't his father, it was the illusory form that this demon had created. The point is, Krishna was emotional at that time, seeing his father being killed or seemingly being killed. And I gave many such examples yesterday of Krishna showing the emotional content, because sometimes when we have too much of a renunciate mood, especially if we have too much of a brahmacharya, and you see, because ISKCON is primarily being led by sannyasis and brahmacharis. GBCs traditionally in the past were brahmacharis and sannyasis, and householders were not, until much later, that were not allowed to be gurus and take responsible position. So this is my theory. Again, this is from the Vrajbasi Samhita, which is not available widely. You have to ask me for a copy. So, and then this is from my observance and studying, because as I mentioned, I'm an amateur historian, right? I like history very much, so I read so ISKCON traditionally was led by sannyasis, and sannyasis generally means renunciation, and a certain type of renunciation where the emotional content is not so important. I don't know if I should say this, if it's proper. Let me check with Krishna if I should say this. Yeah, okay, I'll say it. So because ISKCON has been led by sannyasis, and sometimes this manifested in extreme forms of renunciation, which cascaded down, which minimized the emotional importance. And so you see how sannyasis would treat their disciples, especially male disciples. They would, in the past, and things have changed now, they would treat them like they were stones, almost as stones. Order carriers. You do this, I tell you to do something, you do it. That was basically the relationship. That's about it. And you give donations. That's what about it. Now, in our sannyas classes, we have what's Maharaj's name? He's from Spain. He wrote a book. He did his PhD on ISKCON sannyasis. And I think the book is widely available, and this is why I'm confident I can speak about it. And he speaks about it with us as well, so might as well speak it to you as well. So it is studied very deeply how many sannyasis we had, what problems they had in their spiritual life, and why they left, all these things. It's in his book. He got his PhD now. You can get a copy. I'm sure if you go to krishna.com, if they allow it. It's a very, it's a book that every disciple, every devotee should have. And I'm sure some leaders will hide this information from you so you don't read the book. So you continue creating, you continue having a certain image of them. But the book should be available. It's written by a bona fide ISKCON sannyasi, and it's very intelligent sannyasi. So he tells us that he gives many reasons why sannyasis leave ISKCON. One of the reasons is people that are not qualified to take sannyas, or people that prematurely take sannyas. Eventually they leave, and they get married and stuff. So taking sannyas prematurely is one of those. I forget. I'm not gonna mention the others. And the other one is lack of friendship in ISKCON. In other words, that lack of emotional content in ISKCON, where these our sannyasis isolate themselves, they keep to themselves. I have seen in my own personal experience 2 sannyasis share the same house. In a Grihastha's house. They both came to visit. They both stay in different rooms, and then they have completely different programs. They eat at different times. They don't speak to each other. They don't communicate. And yet, they're meant to teach us something. How can somebody who doesn't get along with his god brother sit on the Vyasa-san and then teach? So the lack of the emotional content, forget Maharaj's name. You can Google it, you'll find it, or ask one of the senior devotees there. So the emotional content is important. And he said this is the biggest reason why our sannyasis leave ISKCON, is this content. And we've lost many sannyasis because of this. Now I just want to qualify that since things have changed since then, now the sannyas ministry is led by Pralandanana Swami. who is, I mean, he's my hero. He is my hero. I heard, you can confirm this or not, you can check with us. I heard that when they did his astrology before he took sannyas, they said, this is a real sannyasi. This is a real renunciate. And he'll never ever fall down. And he's never fallen down. And you can see it in his being, that he's a proper. I'm not saying others are not proper sannyasis. I'm just specifically highlighting Pralananda Maharaj because we're speaking about sannyas ministry here. So he's like that, right? You can see it in his embodiment, in his philosophy, in his psychology. This is a man who knows the Bhagavad Gita by heart, and not just the Sanskrit and the verses, but the purports as well. This is somebody who knows, I'm sure, a large part of the Bhagavatam by heart. Krishna book, he knows it by heart. And this is how you see the manifestation of brahmacharya, right? And the person that we were listening to at class 2 before, Dravida Prabhu, he's like about 90 now. He's in his 80s now. But you look at him, he has the energy and the fire of a 40-year-old. And one thing anyway, there's so much to say about him. But the point that I'm making is that this is an important, and this is why I'm spending quite a substantial amount of time on these issues, because I've seen the devastating effect that they can have. I'll close with this and then we'll take a break. In South Africa, we had when I was in one of the GBC task forces, I won't mention names. One of the groups that was I was in, that was tasked by the GBC. There was one Mataji on there who, I won't mention the name, very senior Mataji, ISKCON. She's involved in many projects, ISKCON project. And when we were sitting down as a group, we were sharing certain things, certain experiences, because it would help us in the research. She shared something very powerful, something that I found to be very common, not now so much, but in the past it was very common. And she said that they were in Mayapur, and she was, they were organizing all these programs and all of that, and there were chairs and everything. So she was one of the organizers. And so this one sannyasi, this happened actually when we were interviewing this particular sannyasi. I'm sorry. We were interviewing this particular sannyasi on this particular project. And so, towards the end, so the Mataji asked, Maharaj, do you remember me? And Maharaj said, yes, I remember you, I've seen you here in Mayapur. And then the Mataji said, do you remember this at this year, at this time? And Maharaj said, yes, I remember that. Said, do you remember our exchange? And Maharaj said, no, I don't remember. And so this Mataji began to share experience with this sannyasi, right? And what did he say? So the Mataji said, when everybody was seated, you came in, and you came in a little late. And when you came in, I was sitting in one of the chairs because everybody has sat down and you were late. You remember what you did? And Maharaj says, no. You came to me and you pointed at me and said, hey, you, Mataji, get up. Get out, the sannyasi is here. And I stood up and I left, went to my room and cried the whole night in front of everybody. And you sat down. And then the next time you saw me in Mayapur, no issue, there was no problem. So that hurt me very much, Maharaj. To this day, I avoid you like a plague. I don't come to your classes. I don't listen to your lectures. I avoid you as much as I can. He says, Maharaj, I hate you. And this is happening years later, many years later. This is coming to pass. And when Maharaj heard this, he did something amazing. He fell down, started crying, and he begged for forgiveness from this Mataji. He was crying. I'm not going to mention any names. He was crying. He said, I was not aware at all. This is how things used to be back then. Sannyasis, they gave orders and everybody followed. He could understand because he himself had matured by that age, by that time. And he apologized. And Mataji said, Maharaj, I forgive you. I forgive you. And this was online, so, I forgive you. And that's how it was settled. So you can see the emotional maturity on the sannyas part. He takes responsibility for what he did wrong, and he apologizes. If it was me, Suga, I'm right. Damn it, I'm a sannyasi. Who are you to tell me? Oh, I'm a sannyas candidate. You should give me a bigger plate. When you see me, you should bow down. This is not Krishna consciousness. This is Kanishta. So it is now, what time is it? This is Gayatri time. Okay, it is 12:57 my time. We can be back here at 5 minutes after 1. So that's in 8 minutes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. You people are eating. You know what they are camera. They are eating.
So somebody can read Arjuna's prayers and his apologies. That's 36 to 46.
Text 36. Arjuna said, O master of the senses, the world becomes joyful upon hearing your name, and thus everyone becomes attached.
Before you continue, Prabhu, just 1 second. Sorry for cutting you short. Just one last point to highlight. As Arjuna is offering his prayers and his apologies, you see the last part there. Sanjay said to Dhritarashtra, this is 35. After hearing these words from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the trembling Arjuna offered obeisances with folded hands. You know, we know what happens when you're trembling. It means you're in a certain state of mind. And then what happens? He fearfully spoke to the Lord in a faltering voice. You can see this is somebody who's clearly disturbed. So go on, Prabhu, start with 36.
Text 36. Arjuna said, O master of the senses, the world becomes joyful upon hearing your name, and thus everyone becomes attached to you. Although the perfected beings offered you their respectful homage, the demons are afraid and they flee here and there. All this is rightly done. Text 37. O great one, greater even than Brahma, you are the original creator. Why then should they not offer their respectful obeisances unto you? O limitless one, God of gods, refuge of the universe, you are the invincible source, the cause of all causes, transcendental to this material manifestation. 38. You are the original personality of Godhead, the oldest, the ultimate sanctuary of this manifested cosmic world. You are the knower of everything, and you are all that is knowable. You are the supreme refuge above the material modes, O limitless form. This whole cosmic manifestation is pervaded by you. 39. You are air, and you are the supreme controller. You are fire, you are water, and you are the moon. You are Brahma, the first living creature, and you are the great grandfather. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you 1,000 times, and again, and yet again. 40.
All right.
Obeisances to you from the front, from behind, and from all sides. Oh, unbounded power. You are the master of limitless power or might. You are all pervading, and thus you are everything. 41 and 42. Thinking of you as my friend, I have rashly addressed you, O Krishna, O Yadava, O my friend, not knowing your glories. Please forgive whatever I may have done in madness or in love. I have dishonored you many times, jesting as we relax, lay on the same bed, or sat or ate together, sometimes alone and sometimes in front of my friends. O infallible one, please excuse me for all those offenses. 43. You are the father of this complete cosmic manifestation, of the moving and the non-moving. You are its worshipable chief, the supreme spiritual master. No one is equal to you, nor can anyone be one with you. How then could there be anyone greater than you within the three worlds? O Lord of immeasurable power. And 44. You are the supreme Lord to be worshipped by every living being. Thus I fall down to offer you my respectful obeisances and ask your mercy. As a father tolerates the impudence of a son, a friend the impatience of a friend, or a husband the familiarity of his wife, please tolerate the wrongs I may have done to you. 45. After seeing this universal form, which I have never seen before, I am gladdened, but at the same time my mind is disturbed with fear. Therefore, please bestow your grace upon me and reveal again your form as the personality of Godhead, O Lord of Lords, O Abode of the universe. And 46. O universal form, O thousand-armed Lord, I wish to see you in your four-armed form, with helmeted head and clap, quill, conch, and lotus flower in your hands. I long to see you in that form. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So you see in text 41 to 42 where Arjuna is apologizing to Krishna, right?
Yeah.
So Arjuna is apologizing for casually addressing Krishna as a friend. He's apologizing for joking with Krishna in a familiar setting, and he underestimated Krishna's majesty, no? So then what does he do? He begs the Lord to see the Lord's two-armed form. Prabhupada says in the purport there, although Krishna is manifested before Arjuna in his universal form, Arjuna remembers his friendly relationship with Krishna and is therefore asking pardon and requesting Krishna to excuse him for many informal gestures which arise out of friendship. He is admitting that formerly he did not know that Krishna could assume such a universal form. So this is Arjuna's apology. And you see there in 43, Prabhupada quotes the verse, the Lord is being paid obeisances in all respect. Right? He is the immeasurable greatness. No one can be greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. No one is equal to or higher than Krishna within any manifestation, spiritual or material. Everyone is below him. No one can excel him. This is stated in the Swetashvatara Upanishad 6.8. Na tasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, na tat samas cha vyadikas cha drishyate. The Supreme Lord Krishna has senses and body like an ordinary man, but for him there is no difference between his senses, his body, his mind, and himself. Foolish persons do not perfectly know him, say that Krishna is different from his soul, mind, and heart, and everything else. Krishna is absolute. So again, there you have it. There's the word again of karya and karan. So it's karya and karana, cause and effect. All right. So now I think we can go and read the remainder of the verses. So you can familiarize yourself with those prayers by Arjuna. And remember that Arjuna is saying all of this, and he is paralyzed by fear at this stage. So 47 to the end of the chapter. As Arjuna says in 46, as we read, well, let's start with 45. And after seeing this universal form that I've never seen before, and then in 46, O universal form, O thousand-armed Lord, I wish to see you in your four-armed form, with helmeted head and with club, wheel, conch, and lotus flower in your hand. I long to see you in that form. So Arjuna now wants to get rid of this fear, because this form has terrified him so badly. He wants to go back. All right, so let's read the rest of the chapter, 47 to 55. If no
Should I
one wants to
continue,
read it, we
Prabhu?
can end the class here. What's that? Oh, somebody's reading. Okay.
Text 47. Text 47. The Supreme Personality of God has said, My dear Arjuna, happily have I shown you by my internal potency this supreme universal form within the material world. No one before you had ever seen this primal form, unlimited and full of glaring effulgence. 48. O best of the Kurus, O best of the Kuru warriors, no one before you has ever seen this universal form of mine. For neither by studying the Vedas, nor by performing sacrifices, nor by charity, nor by pious activities, nor by severe penances can I be seen in this form in the material world. 49. You have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. May my devotee be free again from all disturbances. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire. 51. No, text 50. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, having spoken thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form, and at last showed his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. 51. When Arjuna saw Krishna in his original form, he said, O Janardana, seeing this human-like form, so very beautiful, I am now composed in mind, and I am restored to my original nature. 52. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form, which is so dear. 53. The form you are seeing with your transcendental eye cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. Text 54. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Text 55, the last verse. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being. He certainly comes to me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. All right, so Arjuna offered his prayers, and now we get to see the superiority of the personal form of Krishna, right? From the universal form to four-handed form, then to the two-handed arm. And then Krishna explains, of course, in these verses how this universal form is rare, it can't be seen, and one needs divine vision, right? And this personal form, Arjuna, Krishna tells Arjuna himself that this form that's standing right before you in my two-armed form, that's even more rare than this universal form. And only through bhakti can one approach Krishna. And how do that? You fix your mind on him, you render service to him, and also detachment from fruitive actions. So essentially here, Krishna is establishing devotional service is the only means to understand Krishna. Not yoga, not tapasya, not austerity, nothing. Just bhakti. Beautiful. And this is also confirmed in the Nectar of Devotion. Bhakti is not dependent on tapasya, on knowledge, gyan, on vanashram and all those things. Prabhupada says in 47, this form was manifested by Krishna through his internal potency, which is inconceivable by human speculation. No one had seen this universal form of the Lord before Arjuna, but because the form was shown to Arjuna, other devotees in the heavenly planets and in other planets in outer space could also see it. They had not seen it before, but because of Arjuna, they were also able to see it. In other words, all the disciplic devotees of the Lord could see the universal form which was shown to Arjuna by the mercy of the Lord. Someone has commented that this form was shown to Duryodhana also when Krishna went to Duryodhana to negotiate for peace. Unfortunately, Duryodhana did not accept the peace offer, but at the time Krishna manifested some of his universal form, but those forms are different from this one shown to Arjuna. It is clearly said that no one had ever seen this before. So essentially the universal form that was manifested to Duryodhana, even to Mother Yashoda, when she opened Krishna's mouth, she saw the universal form. Those were partial. Those were not complete universal form. And this, what Arjuna is seeing, is a complete one. And this is why Prabhupada is saying this is a completely different game. So that's an important distinction there. Krishna himself says, no one has ever seen this. And in 48, Prabhupada says, the Bhagavad Gita gives the description of the universal form. Although this description was unknown to everyone before. And another thing, that it wasn't only Arjuna that saw this, but also the other devotees, because of they've put themselves in a position to receive the bhakti. They could also experience what Arjuna was experiencing. The Bhagavad Gita gives the description of the universal form. Although this description was unknown to everyone before Arjuna, now one can have some idea of the Vishvarupa after this incident. Those who are actually divine can see the universal form of the Lord, but one cannot be divine without being a pure devotee of Krishna. The devotees, however, who are actually in the divine nature and who have divine vision, are not very much interested in seeing this universal form of the Lord, as described in the previous verses. Arjuna desired to see the four-handed form of Lord Krishna as Lord Vishnu. He was actually afraid of the universal form. In this verse, there are very significant words like Veda, Yagya, Dhyayana, which refers to studying the Vedic literature and subject matter of sacrificial regulation. So it goes on and on like that. And then Prabhupada speaks about pious. Similarly, pious activities refers to the Agnihotra and the prescribed duties of the different castes. So you have to understand this distinction when Prabhupada is saying, when Krishna is saying, not by performing sacrifice, by charity, nor by pious activity, nor by severe penances can I be seen as I am. So this is what it means by pious activity. We should not make up our own definition of what it means, pious activity. And Agnihotra, and the voluntary acceptance of some bodily pains is called tapasya. So one can perform all these, can accept bodily penances, give charity, study the Vedas, etc. But unless he's a devotee like Arjuna, it is not possible to see the universal form. And then after that, of course, Krishna is again pacifying Krishna in 49. You have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mine. So now let it be finished. My devotee, be free again from all disturbances. With a peaceful mind, now you can see the form you so desire. Again, Krishna is acknowledging Arjuna's emotions. He's not just dismissing him. Why you feared? You should be a man. Get up, stand up, or whatever. And then, of course, after that, after Krishna says this, he displays his four-armed form. And then Prabhupada says some enlightening things in the purport. When Krishna appeared as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, he first of all appeared as four-armed Narayana. But when he was requested by his parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child in appearance. Similarly, Krishna knew that Arjuna was not interested in seeing a four-handed form. But since Arjuna asked to see this four-handed form, Krishna also showed him this form again and then showed himself in his two-handed form. And this two-handed form is known as the most beautiful form. And then Prabhupada, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. And I think all the West African devotees, because every weekend you chant the Brahma Sanghita, you should know this by heart by now. And then after that, Arjuna saw this this Manusam Rupam, this original form. He became peaceful and composed in mind. And then Krishna utters the famous verse. Oh no, it's not yet. And then Krishna explains to Arjuna, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this. So it's very rare. It's sudurlabha. Very, very rare. And then he says, Krishna, as we have seen several times discussed, Krishna is covered by his yoga maya potency. This is text purport 252. As we have several times discussed, Krishna is covered by his yoga maya potency. He is not to be seen or revealed to anyone and everyone. Only by one to whom he reveals himself can he be seen. So you see, you don't have darshan of the Lord, but the Lord has darshan of you. There's the evidence right there. He's not to be seen or revealed to anyone and everyone, only by one who knows who, like that. So that's it. Devotional service. Krishna can only be approached by devotional service. And in 54, Prabhupada says, the personal forms of Krishna, the two-handed form and the four-handed form, are described as sudur darshanam, very difficult to see. They are completely different from the temporary universal form shown to Arjuna. The four-handed form of Narayana and the two-handed form of Krishna are eternal and transcendental, whereas the universal form exhibited to Arjuna is temporary, because Krishna identifies himself as time. Time moves differently in the material world. The word Stwadanyanya Nadrishta Purvam, text 47, states that before Arjuna, no one had seen the universal form. So it's a long purport, but a lot of the things that Prabhupada has mentioned here, Krishna we've already discussed in the previous verses. Even Prabhupada quotes that verse that we've several times quoted from the Brahma Sanghita, Ishvara Parama Krishna. And then he also quotes the famous Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavam. I fully understand that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, and that you are the refuge of everything. And then remember this, that this is how Krishna ends the chapter in 55. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. So this is really the Anyabhilasita Shunyam Jnana Karma Anavrita. Krishna Anukuli. Anyway, this is the definition of pure devotional service. Krishna Anukuliyena Krishna. Oh. So this is the definition of pure devotional service. No work should be done by any man except in relationship to Krishna. This is called Krishna karma. One may be engaged in various activities, but one should not be attached to the results of his work. The results should be done only for Krishna. For example, one may be engaged in business, but to transform the activity into Krishna consciousness, one has to do business for Krishna. If Krishna is the proprietor of the business, then Krishna should enjoy the profit of the business. If a businessman is in possession of thousands and thousands of dollars, and if he has to offer Krishna all of this, he can do it. This is work for Krishna. Instead of constructing a big building for his sense gratification, he can construct a nice temple for Krishna and can install the deity of Krishna and arrange for the deity service as outlined in the authorized books of devotional service. All this is all Krishna karma. Remember that, Krishna karma. So when you hear devotees speak about Krishna karma, it's not speculation. They take it from Krishna Prabhupada himself. Any questions or comments before we end? I've taken 5 minutes of your time already, but we'll see if there are any questions. So this is why the next chapter is called Devotional Service. So thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 11th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the universal form. So next week will likely be our last session together. We'll end this study of this module. It's taken a longer than it should have, but we've missed several classes because of various reasons. So I don't see any hands. I don't think there's any questions or comments. Going once, going twice, and Balabhadra Prabhu has raised his hand. Hare Krishna, Balabhadra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
That is Hare Krishna. Chapter 1133 from the purport. That's
1133. Okay, let me turn that. Okay, 1133.
Let's say you mentioned the name Mitaram, Matram.
One second. Okay, yeah.
This
34.
word is supposed to be 1133. 1133.
What's the question?
Oh, my.
Oh, we lost Balabhadra Prabhu. Well, did I lose everybody? Everybody's still here? Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, we've discussed this. If you look at the Sanskrit, it says Nimitta Matram, just the cause, right? Just the cause. And remember, I spent quite a lot of time speaking about Satkaryavad, the cause and the effect. I spent quite a considerable amount of time there. So Prabhupada is saying this word is also very significant. The whole world
is moving according to the plan of Supreme Personality of Godhead. A question may ask, if the whole world is moving according to the desire of the supreme law, why is the cause of the reaction?
What is the cause of?
Why people suffer for the reaction? Because everything is working for the according to the desire of the supreme Lord. Why people suffer the reaction? The question may be asked as a Sagittarius devotee.
Yes, I mean that's a question. That's a question that even Raghupati can answer. So what I'll do is what I'll do is this. This will be a homework for. We'll start this because we're already over time. We'll start next week's. We'll start next week's session with this. With Balabhadra Prabhu's question, and it'll be answered by Raghupati Prabhu. Why do people suffer even though Krishna made, what is it? When Krishna is the cause of all this, right? Balabhadra Prabhu? Why is everybody suffering when Krishna is the cause of all this? One thing that I want to bring your attention to as we prepare to leave and think about this question for next session is that I spoke about the different one of the key issue in religion and philosophy, and that is the key to that is the answer to that rather is an understanding how different religions understand how God interacts with the material world, right? And from the Christian Judeo perspective, well, let's say from the Greeks, that God is the cause. He creates everything, and then he leaves everything. Everything takes care of itself, right? God created everything, and everything leaves, and everything moves on without him. So therefore, it's God's fault. I mean, if you follow this logic to the end, therefore it's God's fault because he created the material world. This is what Balabhadra Prabhu is asking. Whereas our philosophy is different. Yes, God created the world, but the world is moving under Krishna's energy. Now let's do this. Okay, let's go to 13, and then we'll end this. 13:20. 13:20. Okay, it says, material nature and the living entity should be understood to be beginless. Their transformation, which is what you are asking, why are they suffering? Because suffering is a transformation. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of their transformation, and the modes of matter are products of material nature. And what is this nature? There's that word in 21. Karya karanam katritve hetu prakriti uchati. Purusha shukha dukhanam prakriti bhoktrite hetur uchati. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects. This is our philosophy, right? We don't say God created the world and he left. We say God created the material world, and the material world is functioning because of Shakti. So Shakti controls the material world, not Krishna. So we don't blame Krishna for what's happening in the material world, right? So nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this material world. So it's your fault, Balabhadra Prabhu, you are suffering. It's not Krishna's fault. The living entity in 22, the living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, what happens? Because of the transformation, he meets with good and evil among various species. And then Krishna ends this. He says, one who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present birth. So if you don't understand why the living entity is suffering in this material world after this explanation by Krishna, then he'll take birth in the material world again. And I know, of course, Balabhadra Prabhu is asking it on behalf of everybody else. But that's the answer, Balabhadra Prabhu. Is that okay? So it comes down to how we understand religion. So when somebody is asking a question like that, understand which religion they're coming from. Are they coming from Islam, from an Islamic point of view? Are they coming from a Christian point of view? Are they coming from a Hindu point of view? Are they coming from a Western education point of view, which is me and you and everybody else? And so once you understand where they're coming from, then you can answer them based on that. For instance, in this instance, if the person is coming from, just based on what the information you gave me, the person is coming from the Western education / Christian background. And based on that, then you can explain using these verses why people suffer. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Have a nice weekend, the rest of your day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.